just both side by side like this. Dennis will lead, but I want to be able to talk to him. You're so much more handsome. What happened? Guys, I got to apologize. Rick is down under the weather today, and he's being replaced by our good friend Dennis Michelson. And Dennis works with us on Tuesdays as well, so we're all good friends. Anyway, this is our Thursday checkdown on Wednesday because Thursday's Thanksgiving, and we believe in family first. So we still want you to win your games, but we don't want to take your time on Thursday. We want you to devote that to your family. How you doing tonight, Dennis?
I'm doing fantastic, Greg. You know, at the radio station there, I'm kind of the Paul Popovich. I'm the sort of the guy who just fills in doing a little bit of everything. So this is kind of fun that I'm doing this here for the sports affiliation too. I'm coming off the bench, the pinch hitter. I'll play a little shortstop, whatever you guys need me to do.
You're Gates Brown, baby. When I grew up, that was my pinch hitter, Gates Brown.
Yeah.
Yes, all right. So tonight we're switching things up a little bit because our pro can't join us until the bottom of the hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our Joe right now. Why don't you welcome our Joe, Mr. Chris Doherty? Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Greg. Hey, Dennis. I'm doing great. I'm so glad to be able to join you. Greg, it's good to see you again. Dennis, great to meet you.
Now, Chris and I met a couple years ago at the Scott Fish Bowl live draft in Houston. And I was reminded of that fact in the green room by none other than Tipp Major, who's also here because we're starting with his segment. Tipp, how are you doing tonight? Do we have Tipp? Is Tipp coming up? Iggy and JC put these little screens together for us, and they always get me dancing. I don't know. The music. I love that. So, Tipp, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
What's going on, fellas? I'm great. I'm ready to talk some AI. Last week, week 12, was probably one of our single worst performances from the players that we had. One of them didn't play, and Brian Thomas Jr. So,
and he was number one on everybody's list.
And
he was number one on everybody's list.
I don't know if he was number one on. Was he on? Yeah, he was number one on mine. He was. And then Tony Pollard only scored 8 points, and Kyle had us down in the pits with 4.5 points. It was atrocious. So as
it's a pass week. It's a pass week. We all got 4 points.
We all got 4 points last week. Now, as for the year, AI Sir Whittington is at 30 points for this season. Now, remember, the highest points is what you don't want. You want the lower points. But Krog is leading the pack at 40 points. Krog, look, dude, the recalibration tools, the parts that you got from the Russians, they're not working, bro. So I don't know what Krog's got to do, but Krog is dead last right now.
He got
by 10
points.
Chinese.
He got hacked by the Chinese.
He got hacked. Greg, you're at 30 points. Rick Brusuelis, our great Rick, hope you feel better, man. 34 points. And then myself, I'm at 30 points as well. So me, Greg, and Sir Whittington are all battling it out to see who's going to be number one.
But in fairness, I did take 2 weeks off.
You did take 2 weeks off.
So if you add in the points of my replacement, I'm actually at 30. Now he got 4.
Now this week, again, we are meeting on Wednesday because of Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Even Krog and Sir Whittington said happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. So we're looking at 3 players this week. We're looking at Woody Marks, Kayshon Boutte. You guys know I'm a booty guy. And then Hunter Henry. So we're looking at those 3 guys. And Sir Whittington, we'll just start it off the bat, has it down for Woody Marks. He has him as a safe PPR floor. Steady Eddie, going to get passes, involved in the receiving game. So he said his ceiling fluctuates with matchup and touchdown opportunities, which we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But for him, they have him as number 1. For Kayshon Boutte, he has him as number 2, Sir Whittington. Says he has really big play upside, growing in the offense, has really high flex reward. The problem is a weekly inconsistency. He's very touchdown dependent. Again, we will talk a little bit about that in just a moment. And then he has Hunter Henry at number 3. Strong red zone presence, gives him a steady touchdown potential for tight ends. We saw what he did last week. Again, lower target volume is what he's more concerned about. So he has it, again, Woody Marks at number 1, Kayshon Boutte at number 2, and then Hunter Henry at number 3. As for Krog, though, Krog, who, again, we know that Krog has been struggling a little bit. Krog has it squared at Woody Marks. He says he's a lead back. He's getting really good volume, 15 to 18 touches, steady workload. He has number 2, he has Hunter Henry. And he said that with the Hunter Henry, he said that 72% route share, and he's getting 17% of the target share. For a tight end in this offense, that's a pretty balanced offense. That's pretty good that he's still getting that. So he says elite matchup against the Giants. I beg to differ on that, Krog. And we'll talk a little bit about the matchup here in just a moment. But then he has number 3 at Kayshon Boutte. He just said, look, yeah, he's a full-time wide receiver, but he just relies too heavily on the deep ball. And he's really concerned about that. So the way Krog has it is Woody Marks, number 1, Hunter Henry, number 2, and Kayshon Boutte, number 3. So far, we got a little bit of a mixed match. And we have a mismatch from me as well. So all 3 of us disagree because I have Kayshon Boutte at number 1. And here's a couple of reasons why I have Kayshon Boutte at number 1. First of all, I'm a booty guy. And I think he's going to make a booty call this week, guys. He's making a booty call. He's getting in the end zone. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Giants have not been that great against wide receivers. They're allowing 2 wide receivers or 2 receiving touchdowns in the last 3 games. So I think Kayshon Boutte is going to be on the receiving end of a touchdown this week. And I would say one other thing. Kayshon Boutte leads the league in touchdowns 20-plus yards or more. He has 5 on the season. This week, he's getting 6. So Kayshon Boutte is going to be my number 1 guy. My number 2 guy is Woody Marks. I really like the usage that we're getting from Woody Marks, but it's like falling on deaf ears because he's not really getting in the end zone. He's going against a Colts team who's actually pretty stingy against the run. They allow right at 100 yards per rushing per game to teams. It's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. And then they're really tough against getting rushing touchdowns. They've been giving up a rushing touchdown here as of late at home, but I will say this: they are still giving up. They're still a really tough run defense if they get all their marks in a row. And then look, now we're also talking about C.J. Stroud not possibly playing again due to the concussion. So if that is the case, then again, I think that Woody Marks is going to get the opportunities. But we need him to get in the end zone, and I just think that he falls short of that. For me, look, the last one is Hunter Henry, and I think everybody's going to be chasing what happened last week. Look, last week he was going against Cincinnati. If everybody knows Cincinnati, buckle up Mark Andrews tomorrow, buckle up Isaiah Likely tomorrow, because those 2 guys are going to have opportunities in the passing game. They're going to be able to have opportunities to score because all tight ends score against them. Hunter Henry was a smash hit last week because they were going against the Cincinnati Bengals. And everybody's obliterating, all the tight ends are obliterating them. But I don't think that this week, going against the Giants, and I'm going to tell you right now, the Giants have been really tough against tight ends, guys. The last 4 games, they're only giving up 34 yards to the tight ends with no touchdowns. They've given up 5 on the season, but here as of late, no touchdowns. And they've played George Kittle. They've played Colston Loveland, who are some really good tight ends that are doing some really good things right now. So I think they got it locked in for the tight end position. I think they continue that this week, and Hunter Henry falls short of getting in the end zone.
All right, well, let's go over to our guest. How are you doing, Scott? What do you think is going to be up here? Rank them first.
So first of all, I completely agree. Giants have been tremendously stingy with tight ends. I have no idea how the changing coaching is going to affect their defense, have literally no idea. But I'm going to put Henry last. I could be a booty guy, but I'm going to put him second because Woody Marks is really taking off. And you're right, Colts have a good defense against the run, but I think game flow is going to probably put Marks in more for the pass catching, which he's really taking over quite a bit from Dari.
Okay, well, let's shoot over to Rick. Dennis. Dennis, what are you doing? I'm so used to Rick being in that chair.
Yeah, that's okay. I got a little less hair than Rick, but
better
anyway.
looking and more intelligent, though.
Oh boy,
I don't know, man.
I'm doing this just for Rick, and he treated me really well when I was gone, so I shouldn't be doing this. I should treat him nicely.
There you go. Well, this group of 3 players are 3 players that I hope you don't have to start this week, because I don't think anybody in this group is going to have a big week. I agree. Hunter Henry 8 last week because of the defense, and it's going to be a little tougher. I'm not too scared about that Giants defense, but against tight ends, yeah, that's been kind of the best of bad performances, I guess is the way to put it. But I'm worried about Kayshon Boutte's health is the big thing. He did not look like the same explosive player last week. Will he be better a week removed from that injury? Possibly. But I just think his big advantage is the big play, and it's being able to get that step. I think he's still a couple of weeks away from being at full speed. Woody Marks getting the volume, but not getting much in the way of fantasy football results. Indianapolis continues to get better against the run. So the way I'm going to classify this is I hope you don't have to play any of the 3, but I think Woody Marks is going to be my top guy. Hunter Henry a close second, and Kayshon Boutte in the show position out of these 3. If Boutte was healthy, I'd be taking the chance on that big play possibility, but I just don't think he is back to full song.
All right, it's my turn. And I went out, I actually talked to another AI, Perplexity, and it really liked Hunter Henry as the number 1, but I didn't go that way. I'm going with Marks first. He's gotten at least 10 rush attempts in his last 6 games, with 34 in the last 2 games, 16 and 18. So the volume's there. Now, I would like to see him used more in the passing game because he came out of college as a pass receiving specialist. So I'd like to see him used a little bit more there. I expect that against the Colts that might happen because I expect the Colts to be able to score on that tough Houston defense. Could be wrong there, but if he gets 3 to 4 targets, I think he leads this pack. Again, I kind of agree that I wish you didn't have to start any of them, but they're all flex starters. They're all potential flex starters. Between the 2 Patriots receivers, I'm actually going to go with the tight end because of volume. He gets steady, consistent targets in the middle, and I just like that better than the chance that Boutte will break a long one. Now, Boutte, he could burn me with this because he's certainly got the deep ability, but I'm still going Marks, Henry, and Boutte, and Tipp already told us how we're doing. So now we've got a news segment. We're going to let Tipp and Scott fade into the background if they want to stick around for the mailbag after, and the pro. Well, Scott's got to stick for the pros and Joes, but they're welcome to stick if they want to. But if you're spending time with your family, Tipp, I do understand.
Yeah, peace, guys. Yeah, I'm going to spend some time with the fam, and we'll see you guys next week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks again, Tipp.
You got Tipp.
Peace.
News segment, Iggy. Does anybody remember a fax machine sound? Because that's what that is. What you got for us, Dennis?
All righty. Well, I'm going to do the news as good as my favorite radio personality of all time. I'm going to try to do my best Les Nessman imitation on the news segment. The great news about week 13, no buys. So everybody in play. The tough part of week 13 is we have 4 games between the 3 on Thanksgiving and the 1 on Friday. So if you're sitting there with a lot of questionable guys on your Sunday playlist, you might have to force one of these Thursday or Friday guys into the lineup instead. And hey,
Yeah, but there's good players on Thursday. There's a lot of good players on Thursday. So that works out.
Yeah, the Thursday, all 3 of the Thursday games, as the professor and I on the matchup lab would call them, they're all Husky games. They're all big, beautiful, high-scoring games.
Are you in Cincinnati? Well, your favorite news guys from WKRP in Cincinnati, right?
Yes, it would be pretty good. But, I couldn't make it back home for the turkey drop today. So,
okay.
But the big news this week, oh my goodness, the Las Vegas Raiders. They got rid of their offensive coordinator, and the coordinating job he was doing was quite offensive. So Chip Kelly.
Yeah, now fairness, he was hired by Tom Brady. That was a Tom Brady hire. And with that offensive line, would any coordinator succeed? I don't think Ben Johnson could succeed with that line.
Well, I understand where you're coming from because they haven't been doing a great job.
Great?
Well, they haven't been doing even a good job. How about an average job? But still, they have looked so out of sync that somebody had to go. I think the idea of bringing in one of the oldest coaches and teaming him up with a retread quarterback with an offensive line that is lousy and a rookie running back is probably not going to be a pattern that other teams are using. And they're going to replace him with my favorite TV guy, Greg Olson. I can't believe they're doing that, but the former tight end will be the new offensive coordinator. As far as the injuries go, my goodness, we've got a lot. Baker Mayfield, he is listed as questionable. I don't know if he's going to be able to go with that AC sprain to his left shoulder, non-throwing shoulder, but still.
If he goes, how long do you think he lasts? Because defenses will target an injured player.
They will target it, but Baker is a tough son of a gun. But I just don't think he's going to be at his best regardless. Teddy Bridgewater, who does a great job as a substitute parent in the commercials that they're playing for them.
Yes, he does.
He's going to be the guy. And, I don't know if he's the worst backup quarterback, but he's certainly a downgrade from Baker Mayfield. Also in the injury front, Joe Flacco on the questionable list, but it looks like Joe Burrow is going to return. He came off the IR list today. He's been actually looking pretty good in practice. And Joe Cool wants to light it up. So I look for that to be a big, exciting return on Thanksgiving. Daniel Jones, the Indianapolis Colts quarterback, hobbled a bit with a leg injury. The old Chiefs beat him up pretty good. And then he's just been kind of slowing down every week since. And now he goes up against a very tough Houston Texans defense. So I think he will play. I think he'll be a full play in this game, but I am worried about the Colts struggling on the offensive end. If my Chiefs could shut down their running game, Houston defense is a little bit better. J.J. McCarthy, apparently, if you give your coach and your offensive coordinator and everybody on the offense a headache because you played poorly, they'll put you on concussion protocol. So he's probably going to miss this week. I don't see how it is an upgrade to go with an undrafted rookie, but that's what they're going to be trying this week for Minnesota. Ashton Giante, the fabulous Las Vegas Raiders rookie running back, had a bit of an ankle injury, but I think he will be a full go as well. Alvin Kamara, though, not good news for him, but boy, Alvin's been a little bit, he just hasn't been himself. And if you look at the volume he's been getting, he's not getting as many opportunities in the passing game, regardless of who the Saints have had at quarterback. His ankle injury is going to knock him out. I really do like Devin Neal quite a bit. He was a cheap pickup for me that I was advising on everybody a few weeks ago on the Science of Fantasy Football, and now he will get a full go. Buried on the depth chart for the Saints, of course, Taysom Hill will get some goal line carries that could, vulture a touchdown, but he hasn't been as impactful as he's been in the past. The guy that is hovering at the end of the depth chart is a guy they signed off the Denver Broncos practice squad. So Audric Estime is the next man up after Devin Neal if Alvin Kamara misses a lengthy time. Josh Jacobs back in practice, and he's expected to be a full go. He could have started on Sunday, but they were not going to be able to get him to play 2 games back-to-back on the short turn with the Thanksgiving game in Detroit. Manuel Williams did a great job, or Wilson did a great job on in his behalf with Jacobs out, but Jacobs will be a full go. Not sure if he's going to make it to the end of the game, but he's going to be the starter. T. Higgins out with a concussion. He's already ruled out, but Jamar Chase, the Hawk Tua player of the week, will be returning from his 1-week suspension. And remember, Jamar said it wasn't him, it was the one-armed man. Andre Izavash and Mitchell Tinsley, the other Bengals that split the rest of the targets among the wide receivers with Chase out last week. And they both are good gamble flex plays if you need a plug and play for this week.
Especially with Burrow under center.
Yeah, with Burrow under center. I'm not too crazy about any of the tight end opportunities for the Bengals.
I like Gesicki. I think I don't think he's going to get 14 or 15 points, but he could pull in 5 for 50 and give you 10.
Even when he's been healthy, he has not been playing more than 50% of the offensive snaps. He will get some opportunities on 3rd and long, but I just don't think he's fully ready to go. He's not 100% either. Nobody is this time of the year, but I'm not a big favor on Gesicki here. If you got to use him in the tight end slot, you have some serious issues. But we've lost a lot of tight ends to injuries lately, so you might be hunting and pecking to try to fill in this week. DK Metcalf.
Would you use him over Colston Loveland?
No. Loveland's got the big play possibilities. And Loveland always gets about 2 to 4 plays that are kind of called for him. If he's open, that's another story. But he gets about 2 to 4 plays where he is the focus of that offense. So I like the chances of him over Gesicki.
All right. Fair enough.
Carrying on for the Pittsburgh Steelers, DK Metcalf with an ankle injury, but that is a tough player, and I don't expect him to miss any time. Among the IDP injuries, Flanagan Foles with the New York Giants, linebacker with a neck injury. We had Claudin Sherilis. Now here's where I get to do my great Les Nessman imitation on butchering every name. He's got a concussion. He'll be in the protocol. Questionable whether he will make it in time. Walter Nolan, who's been fantastic for the Cardinals since he came on here later in the season after rehabbing from an injury, now facing a knee injury that'll slow him down. Adoree Jackson with Philadelphia had a concussion. Reed Blankenship with the Eagles. He's a talented safety with a thigh injury. So, hey, those Philadelphia Eagles with a couple of their guys in the defensive backfield on the injury list this week might open the door for the Chicago Bears to pull off the big upset. And that's one that I'm going to call for Friday. Edgerrin Cooper for the Green Bay Packers, their linebacker with foot and shoulder concerns among the offensive line injuries. And I don't think we talk enough about offensive line injuries in fantasy football. The Chargers have lost their entire offensive line, pretty much everybody that they had at the beginning of the season, and you see how it's affected them all year long. Guys that are fresh on the injury list this year or this week, Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, part of that talented New England Patriots offensive line, with knee and ankle injuries respectively. I think they'll both play, but they will not be at full song. Christian Darrisaw from the Minnesota Vikings with foot injury. Donovan Jackson from the Minnesota Vikings, offensive guard with an ankle injury. Trey Smith with the Chiefs having an ankle injury that just keeps slowing him down. He missed last week, and I'm a little bit worried about Thursday. They have been able to patch and fill on that offensive line, but it is a big drop-off after the big guy, Trey Smith, and that wraps it up from the news desk.
All right, well, then our next segment is the Pros versus Joes segment. Iggy, take. Now, normally we do this at the very beginning of the show, and this week we've got a very special guest, Mr. Tyler Bradley of the Fantasy Sports Information Network. Tyler, how are you doing tonight? And thank you for breaking away from work to join us.
Man, I'm doing good. I made it here just in time. I literally ran in the door. We closed a little bit early today and was able to make the show. I feel very mildly prepared, but, anytime that I can come on with you, Greg, and I'm sure the other guests are awesome as well, it's an honor. So glad to be here. Been
we're going to schedule you in the off season for sure to talk about a specific topic. Haven't decided what yet because I'm still waiting for the guys to give me what they want to talk about in the off season. But tell us about the Fantasy Sports Information Network. What sports do you cover? What is it all about?
So the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, you can put it in the chat, fsan.com. We cover fantasy football, fantasy. We just launched our fantasy basketball and fantasy baseball channels. We have a YouTube channel, content rolling, all the time. We have live shows almost every night of the week. We're on, some radio, the YouTube, the whole thing. And then we have a really special project that's launching that'll be towards the end of the season. That's going to be really awesome for all you sports fans and fantasy players. So lots going on, man. It never stops.
Check out the website. Check it out. All right. So what our Pros versus Joes segment is, I'm a long-time player in fantasy, and I've been creating content almost as long. I went into the Hall of Fame in 2010. I had Article of the Year in 2004. So I've been doing this for a little while. I maintain that even the best of the best are wrong 40% of the time, and that the Joes, the serious players that don't get paid to do this, are just as good as the pros. And so I decided we're going to prove it. And so we have a Pros versus Joes, and we're tracking how they're doing. So basically, I give everybody top 12 quarterbacks, top 12 tight ends, and top 24 running backs and wide receivers using a basic PPR system. No bonuses, just, you get a point per a point per reception, and then 1/10 of a point per yard and 6 points for touchdowns, and that's it. You do lose points for interceptions for quarterbacks, and I think quarterbacks get 4 points per touchdown rather than 6. But it's basic. And then these guys pick one guy off that list as a bust for the next week, and one guy that's not on the list that will perform at that level the next week. And we're tracking. And I want to show you where we're at right now. I got it in here somewhere. Maybe I don't. But I do believe that the pros are 2 ahead of the Joes right now. I'll have to go back and check that. But the hosts are way ahead of the pros and Joes combined. Sorry, guys. Just true at this point. Anyway, let's start with our pro. We're going with sleepers first. What do you got for us as a sleeper there, Mr. Bradley?
This was probably the one that I was least prepared for as far as like an actual sleeper. There's a couple wide receivers that we see coming back, like Marvin Harrison Jr. could play. He's got a good matchup that could be really strong. He's ranked outside of that number right now. If he doesn't play, of course, Michael Wilson has been an absolute lock, and that doesn't change this week. They play Tampa. It should be a fine game, especially if Baker does play, which he's slated to. I expect a good bit of points in that game. So I like Arizona Cardinals wide receiver 1 to have a decent week.
Oh, you got to tell me you got to pick one of them.
Well, it depends, because if appendicitis keeps Marvin Harrison Jr. off the field, it's definitely Michael Wilson.
So you're going with Michael Wilson then over Harrison. You got to pick one. You're a pro. You got to pick one.
I don't see him coming back that quick from an appendectomy. I'll tell you that. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, he's limited in practice already. Let's roll with Michael Wilson.
I think that's a smart pick, to be honest. How about you, Mr. Chris? Who do you have as your sleeper?
Okay, Greg, I got to tell you that Tyler is probably the smartest pro ever, because Michael Wilson is also my pick. So
Okay.
Is that fair, or do I get to go
That's
down
fine.
my list?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Good.
That's fine.
So absolutely true that Marvin Harrison Jr. has been out for a couple games with appendicitis. I think whether he's back or not, it doesn't matter. Because honestly, Michael Wilson has performed better in the last 2 games than Marv has for his entire career yet. And they both have Jacoby that is just slinging it. And, they have to. They've been behind in their games. They're going to continue to be behind in their games. They're going to throw it a lot. I think that Michael Wilson is going to have to be our sleeper.
All right. I like Michael Wilson. He's gotten 18 and 15 targets the last 2 games. I think if Harrison plays, the targets go down, but if he gets 10 targets, he should make the top 24 wide receivers. He's just been that good. Dennis, your turn.
All right, guys, I'm going to take an easy one here, because this guy qualifies because he's not in the top 24 in total points. But if you look at fantasy points per game, since he came back from his suspension, he is killing it. Rashee Rice. I know Dallas's defense has gotten much, much better since the trade deadline, since they added some players and they got some guys back healthy. But the professor that I work with on the matchup lab here on Sports Affiliations on Saturday has some secret sauce, folks, and it looks at the likelihood of passing attempts versus rushing attempts. And he's got Kansas City at the top of the list. So I think they're going to have to sling it, because I think Dallas is going to shut down what little running game that the Chiefs try to put up. So it's all Mahomes, and if it's all Mahomes, it's all Rashee Rice. I think Rashee Rice, the Yak Man, is going to be my sleeper for this week.
And I like Rice, and it's a fair pick because he's not in the top 24 yet. I went a different way. I went with the running back. With the injury to J.K. Dobbins, I think that R.J. Harvey is going to get the majority of the carries. Now, I realize that Denver likes to share the load. They don't like to have one stud running back, but I just don't see Jaleel McLaughlin as all that and then some. So I'm going with I'm going. I know that McLaughlin vultured a TD last game. He did, but he didn't do a whole lot other than that. The Commanders' defense, though, they've given up 13 rushing TDs thus far this year. That's over 1 per game. So they're giving up 143.4 rushing yards per game. And you got R.J. Harvey, who I think is going to get conservatively 15 to 18 carries in this game with J.K. gone. I just don't see Jaleel getting more than 5 to 10. And I think they're going to run the ball a lot. So I'm going with R.J. Harvey as my sleeper. I just think he'll do it this time. So it's time for Bus, and we're going back to Tyler.
I will say this, Greg. I didn't know RJ Harvey was an option because I was going through sleepers rankings. He's ranked at 21 at the moment. And you said outside of 24 for the running backs, but I love that call. I love that call. I think he could have a big game. So
he's actually in the points. He's 28th right now.
Gotcha. Okay, so sleepers. So, one of the things in fantasy that we tend to do is jump on players after they explode. And Greg, you hit a heartstring for me. I typically am a running backs guy. Like, I love running backs. I draft heavy running backs. That's my position. Everybody calls me the running back hoarder. In the Expo, the Kings Classic last year, I won that. That's the belt over there on the wall. This year, I went 7 straight running backs in that draft. And deep at wide receiver. Now, some of my wide receivers like Jaden Higgins and such are blooming later than I thought they would, but we're still moving forward. So in all of that, Rico Dowdle has really bust on the scene. I mean, a couple really big games. Obviously there's been the fight between the Hubbard him, but it seems like he is the guy. And, after a big week, you would think, okay, well, we'll just roll right back to Dowdle. He's been double-digit points every week. This week he gets the Rams. He got stuffed against San Francisco. The Rams are going to be tough. So he is on the bust list. If you've been riding the Dowdle hype train, I'm hopping off this week, before the bye.
That's fair. And you're right. He did get stuff last week. It's over to you, Chris. What do you got for us?
I'm picking Daniel Jones, quarterback of the Colts. So the league was, I was so shocked. I was amazed that how fast the Colts offense started out this year. They've continued to be good. They've been tremendous because Jonathan Taylor has been amazing. They've started to slow down, though. And last week, the Colts put the game in Daniel Jones' hand. It didn't turn out well. I'm sitting here in Houston. The Texans are coming off a gigantic win against the Bills. They had 8 sacks and 2 interceptions against the great Josh Allen. And I think they're going to make Daniel Jones' day a living nightmare on Sunday. Daniel Jones is my bust.
So for those that don't know, there's a guy named J.J. Zacharyson in this industry that's a really good guy. And he has a newsletter that's free that you should sign up for because he does a data dump every week. And one of the factoids he provided were about your Houston Texans. They have not allowed a top 12 quarterback all year. Not one. Daniel Jones is my bust from our Snap, Crackle, and Pop for quarterbacks. Because of that. I like that. Dennis, over to you, buddy.
Chris nailed it. That's my guy, Daniel Jones, this week. Because if you looked at the video of him, close-up video, and saw his eyes the last 2 weeks, he's seeing ghosts again, folks. He looks like he is starting to turn from Danny Dimes into Danny whatever. But he's not doing well. And now he goes up against the Houston Texans, number 1 against quarterbacks, as you guys talked about. I think our Joe has it going tonight because I like that pick. And, oh, by the way, Chris, Greg, I love the RJ Harvey pick as well.
Thanks.
So loving that pick this week. But my pick to bust is an easy one because he's coming off an injury. He's looked bad 2 weeks in a row compared to what he looked like earlier. And now he faces the Houston Texans, whose defense should scare just about everyone.
All right. So you went with Daniel Jones too then. I just scratched it out because you sounded like you were going with somebody else when you said coming off an injury.
Yeah,
now I got to read my scratch off. Okay, that's fine. I get it.
Who were you giving me? Who are you?
I wasn't. I was trying to figure out who you were going. You talk about Daniel Jones, and then you say coming off an injury. And yeah, he got a little dinged, but not bad. He's going to play.
Yeah, he's gotten dinged up the last 2 weeks, though. He's come up, come up gimpy against my Chiefs, and then again last week. So I think
you're stealing him from my Snap Crackle Pop segment. Is what I think you're doing. Anyway,
hey, stealing from the best is a good thing to do, man.
Well, I stole it from JJ, so okay, I can accept that. I went with a guy that I normally wouldn't have. I went with the wide receiver 11, and that's Emeka Egbuka. Egbuka, he's a sensation, man. He's nobody saw his rookie year coming, but he's been doing it with touchdowns early in the year, and he hasn't had a top 30 ranked game in over the last 6 games. He's had 6 games in a row under 30 or worse. So that tells you right away he hadn't been playing well. Well, Baker Mayfield left last week's Sunday Night Football game, and who knows if he plays this weekend. If he does, how long he plays. Plus, I think it should also be considered that even though the MRI says it's not bad, you got a wide receiver named Chris Godwin that just came back from injury. He is going to demand targets because he was lighting it up early in the year. Now, they did have Mike Evans then, and he's still gone. But I just think Ibuka is going to extend that streak of 6 straight sub-30 games to 7 straight under wide receiver 30. So for me, that's it. I want to thank Chris, are you going to stick around for the mailbag?
I can stick around for mailbag.
Perfect. Then we'll have 3 people answering questions. I know, Tyler, you got to go, right? Or are you going to stay?
I can give a few minutes.
All right, we'll keep Tyler then for that. So, Iggy, take us to the mailbag, please. All right, so we did have some questions in the chat. We'll start with those. I got to find it. Okay, pick one. This is for K-Space91. He's got Dobbs, Boutte, Godwin, and I think Aaron Jones. Full PPR, it's a flex spot. So, yeah, Aaron Jones, Dobbs, Boutte, or Godwin. I'm going with Aaron Jones. I know it's a tough matchup out in Seattle, but I think they're going to depend on the running game an awful lot with a rookie quarterback that has 8 professional passes in his career. Let's go to you, Tyler, first. What do you think on those?
I like Aaron Jones. I mean, since he's been back, or really he's been averaging over 4 yards a carry. He's been consistent. I think that they're going to have to – I think he's going to get some catches out of the backfield, which will definitely help. And then second to that, if I wasn't leaning, I would go Dobbs, just because the Packers are going to have to throw to be in that game against Detroit. They're going to have to score some points. So if you have to go between – that would be my second.
Okay, let's go over to Chris, and then we'll finish up with Dennis.
4 weeks ago, I would have said Romeo Dobbs, but Christian Watson is back, and I think he's now their wide receiver 1, which Dobbs had been, at least as a proxy. Aaron Jones, probably the right answer, but I'm going to switch my answer and go Chris Godwin. I know that his Baker may or may not play. He got weaned in a little bit last week. I think he's going to play an awful lot more. That's where I'm going.
All right, your turn, Dennis.
I think that's a good pick, but I'm going to kind of slice it up and dice it up and go in a little bit different direction. Yeah, Aaron Jones is going to get the volume, and I usually chase volume, but I'm so worried about that Vikings offense being a mess. 2 linemen on the questionable list, and there was already a questionable offensive line some weeks. And, say what you will about J.J. McCarthy. At least somebody drafted him in the first round. Nobody drafted this kid who's going to be thrown into quarterback. And I have a feeling, unless we see the second coming of the Brock Purdy syndrome, where a guy comes out of nowhere to be pretty good, I think the Vikings are going to take a beating this week. And I don't think anybody is going to be a great start on that team. I agree. Godwin kind of weaning him back, but I'm worried about Baker. I already said I'm a little bit worried about Boutte and his injury. So that leaves the guy Romeo Dobbs as the only guy left on the list that I haven't eliminated. Going to take
All right,
him.
you got 2 Dobbs and you got 2 Aaron Jones, and Fantasy Dog has 2 questions. So we're doing 2s, and we're coming back to you, Dennis. So stay there on the top. Fantasy Dog wants to know, you guys like Brissett or Daniel Jones?
Ooh,
Dennis.
Jacoby Brissett all the way. He has been really, really good. And he hasn't had his number 1 wide receiver. I still don't think he's going to have his number 1 wide receiver, but he's got Trey McBride. Do you need a number 1 wide receiver when you got a tight end that's producing wide receiver numbers? So Jacoby Brissett, easy pick there for me.
Tyler, I think he does have his number 1 receiver. It's just not Marvin Harrison Jr. It's Michael Wilson. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, at the end of you guys all said Jones as a bust this week. Jones was my number 2 bust. I felt like it was such a, you have it's like such a bust. You're like, I got to pick something that maybe people don't see, and so I tried to fight, but Daniel Jones was definitely on my bust list. When he starts getting banged up, he starts making bad decisions. He doesn't play like he normally does. Like, I don't want any piece of that. Jacoby Brissett has been absolute fire, and without Marvin Harrison Jr., like it's a big Trey McBride week again. It's a big Michael Wilson week again. They might get their running back. I like Brissett this week.
Do you agree, Scott? I know you don't like Jones, so do you agree with Brissett?
Oh, I already agreed.
Okay. All right. And I agree too. There's nothing more to add on that one, I don't think. But Fantasy Dog also wanted you to pick one between Watson and Wandale and Franklin. So Wandale, Watson, Christian Watson, Wandale Robinson, and Troy Franklin.
Hey, Dennis, back to the news. Who's starting at quarterback for the Giants this week?
Yes.
Jackson.
Now,
Jackson is.
Well,
He
Jackson
practiced today. He practiced today.
practice.
Okay.
He practiced. He's going to start, but will he finish? Is the
Yes,
question.
he will.
Yes,
he will.
With the way that kid plays, with his
He's
pants
still
on
going to
fire,
finish.
I'm worried about him finishing the day. But
Yeah.
Jackson Dart listed questionable, but back to practice.
All right. So we'll start this one with Scott. Is it Christian, Wandale, or Troy?
You're here with me. As a Broncos fan, I want to say Troy Franklin, but the Broncos mix it up so much. Wandale is their wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, probably regardless of who's throwing him the ball. That's who I pick.
Do you agree, Tyler?
With Jameis, I feel a little bit more confident. Look,
Not James Williams, not Jameis. It's Christian Watson.
No. I'm talking about with if Jameis is
Jameis
throwing
Winston.
Wandale the football, I feel better about Wandale. Dart is more likely to take it and run under pressure, which means less targets. That New England defense is tough. I mean, tough. And so I actually would go to the Denver Broncos fan here and go with Troy Franklin. They have a pretty cush matchup this week. There's going to be points in that game. I think it only for Franklin, it only takes 2 or 3 catches for you to have a fantasy relevant week. I'm riding with them in one of my leagues. I'm great with rolling with Troy Franklin.
All right. Now I'm agreeing with Troy Franklin because I don't want Christian Watson to have a big game against my Lions tomorrow. But also, Troy Franklin's been getting 8 targets a game, and he's one of the most targeted red zone receivers. So I like Franklin this week. Dennis, what do you say?
I'm jumping on the Franklin bandwagon, but mainly because he's got the best defensive matchup of the bunch. Yeah, Troy Franklin's been great. Wan'Dale Robinson's been unbelievable, but I think that New England defense is going to slow the Giants' passing game down a bit this week.
Stay on the screen because you're going to get the first calls on this one. Michael Pelton, and if you don't know, Michael Pelton is part of the TSA. He put together our Discord for us, and he's an IDP specialist who's putting together a pretty big 16-team IDP league that's going to be pretty amazing. It's going to have my friend Gary Davenport, and Mace Riney, and Iggy, and it's just going to be filled with people. Anyway, Michael wants to know, Devin Neal, David Montgomery, is it Chris or Christian Rodriguez in Washington?
Chris Rodriguez, yeah.
Chris Rodriguez, Pacheco, Pearsall, Tez, Franklin, or Juwan, I'm guessing Juwan Jennings. And I don't know how many he needs. He just didn't really say much about that. So give me one wide receiver and one running back.
Yeah, it's Franklin and Devin Neal for me, and it's not even close. Montgomery's just not getting the volume lately. They've been just concentrating on Gibbs, and so I don't expect that game to be a blowout. So I don't see a big rise in Montgomery's volume. If you can figure out the Commanders' running back usage, you're a better man than I am, because I think they just spin a big wheel on the sidelines and decide who is going to go in any given time. Pacheco will be back, but he'll be splitting with Hunt, and I don't think they're going to get much on the ground. I don't think much of Pearsall or Juwan Jennings this week. And, Tez is an exciting player, but he'd be my third pick among those. So Franklin, Devin Neal, and Tez in that order.
I agree. What do you think, Tyler?
I like Franklin. I don't mind Juwan Jennings this week. Montgomery, I agree. Green Bay's tough. He hasn't been getting the volume. Devin Neal's already on the injury report with the ankle. It worries me a little bit for him. Getting his first start and already being kind of banged up. I would be nervous. He's definitely got the highest upside, but you're definitely nervous about starting somebody going in already with an ankle. Luckily, there's not very many people to replace him, but it could be an estimate game, which would be crazy.
He needs 3, by the way.
Oh,
can you pop the list back up? Franklin.
Yes, I will. It's Devin Neal, David Montgomery, Chris Rodriguez, Isaiah Pacheco, Pearsall, Tez Johnson, Franklin, and Juwan Jennings. So you like Jennings and Franklin. So would you give
wide receivers? As a third, I might take a go big or go home shot on Neal, but it's definitely that. It's going to be a great week, or you're going to be sad.
All right, what do you think there, Chris?
I've finally put Montgomery on my bench on 2 leagues where I need points and he just doesn't have them anymore. And, so that makes me tremendously sad. I agreed with everything that was said about Troy Franklin in the last question. He's definitely on that list. I don't know that I can trust Pacheco. Honestly, he's going to have to share carries with Hunt, and he's going to have to share gadget throws to Rashee Rice. That's really their running game. So I don't know. I'm not playing him either. I frankly might play 3 wide receivers, Pearsall, Jennings, and Franklin, and hope that one of those Niners play well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with Pearsall just isn't getting used yet. Jennings at least has had one good game in the last 3. So I'm going to go with Jennings, and again, Franklin. I think Franklin's number one out of that list. But I am going to roll the dice on Devin Neal. I picked him up for a reason, so I'm going to go ahead and play him, and we'll see what he does. Now, we got one more question in the chat. Happy holidays to Frizzle. He wants to know Devin Neal or Woody Marks this week, and then which tight end you rolling with, Juwan, Pitts, Strange, or Darren Waller. And I would probably, I love Juwan. I really do. Juwan Johnson in New Orleans. I'm not trusting Pitts ever again, ever. I like Strange, but I've been reading a lot of good things about Darren Waller. So I think I would go with Waller, and I'm going to go with Woody Marks over Devin Neal this week. Let's go to you first, Troy. Troy?
Oh, well, so I'm going to say out of that, I'm going to go to the tight ends first. I almost picked Strange as my
Tyler,
sleeper.
sorry.
Oh,
smack me, Tyler. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, he can go ahead if he wants. I was going to go to the tight end as well. For me, it's, I want Strange. I mean, his first game back, almost 100-yard game, 5 catches for 5 targets, and that only goes up. He's a safety net for Trevor Lawrence, who's finally starting to tick. They're playing a porous Tennessee defense that has allowed a crazy amount of points. They're obviously fighting for a playoff spot. Jacksonville. I think Strange gets lit up. I think that the Jacksonville offense just has a great day. And then as far as running back goes,
Marks or Neal.
I've always loved Indy's running back core, and Marks just, despite the workload, 18 carries 2 weeks ago, 16 carries last week. He's averaging probably around 3 something a carry, and just not doing a lot effective. You got to kind of hope for the receptions. And he got one of those the last 2 games. But at least you get the workload. I don't know. It depends. If Devin Neal looks hobbled at all as we get towards the end of the week, I'm going Marks. But if Devin Neal looks healthy and he's going full reps and practice this week, I'm going to roll out Neal. So just try to stay in tune with what's happening.
Scott, your turn.
Okay. So I could be on the fence with Marks or Neal. To me, Neal is an absolute unknown. Marks, I've seen getting progressively better. I'm gonna play him. And again, as I started, Strange was almost my sleeper pick this week. The Titans give up a ton of tight end receptions. They've been averaging 5+ out of 8 of their games, tight end receptions.
All right, Dennis, your turn.
Well, they're giving up a lot of receptions, but they're not giving up that many fantasy points. Tennessee actually about 7th worst against tight ends as far as fantasy football scoring, giving up only 11.3 points per game. Believe it or not, as porous as that defense has been. Now, the thing is, Tennessee's so bad at everything that maybe the other positions are just feasting most weeks, so they haven't had to go to the tight end. Love Strange, though, but I'm going to take Juwan Johnson because Miami has actually been the 4th worst, tied for 3rd, actually, giving up 16.8 fantasy points a game to opposing tight ends. And ever since they made the quarterback switch, he's had double-digit points in each game. So I like that, and I think our pro is right on the money. Keep an eye on it because Woody Marks is going to get the volume. But if Devin Neal is fired up as a full starter, he comes off that injury list before the game. I think I would play him over Marks, but you got to pay attention to these things. It's only Wednesday, folks, and that game until Sunday.
Okay, we've got 5 questions from the mailbag. I need to get to them real quick. On these, just give the answer. You don't have to give the reasoning. From Chris Fortson, Jamar Chase, Tedoroa McMillan, Xavier Worthy, Christian Watson, pick 2. I'm going with Chase and McMillan. Let's go to you, Tyler. We're going to do this the same order each time. Me, Tyler, Scott, and then Dennis. That way we can get through it fast. So, Tyler?
I agree with you. Chase McMillan for me.
All right. Scott?
Agree.
And Dennis?
I'll make it unanimous.
All right. That one was easy. AJ Peterson, bit nervous playing Fannin this weekend. Stick it out or drop him for Theo Johnson, Otten, Loveland, Barner, or Fant. I would drop him for Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson's been used a lot. And although I like Fannin, I just don't trust that Cleveland offense. Let's go with you again, Tyler.
Look, I'm dropping Fannin. Shadur, the whole Browns are trying to figure out what they're doing. I'm out on it. I don't want any pieces of it. But I can tell you this: Jackson Dart likes Theo Johnson in the red zone. Like he loves Theo Johnson in the red zone. I don't know how you don't roster him and tight end 10 on the season. And then secondly, I mean, you're talking about tight ends out there. I don't hate Otten either. I like Theo more, but Otten's not bad.
I agree with that, Scott.
I think I could agree with Theo as well. I loved Fannin this year early, but it's a mess now. So, yeah, Theo Johnson sounds good.
Dennis?
For this week, especially going up against that San Francisco defense. So I agree.
All right. From Dennis Scott, need 2 running backs or need 2. R.J. Harvey, Saquon Barkley, or Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm going with Harvey and Barkley. Barkley just gets too many carries not to play him, even if he is not producing the way he normally would. Tyler?
Same. Barkley and Harvey. Give me that side.
That's fair. Agree.
It's hard to sit Wan'Dale, though. It really is.
It is.
And Dennis?
Yeah, you got to play into the volume. Saquon's going to get the volume, so will Harvey. Giants playing a very tough Patriots defense.
Yeah. Cody Medeiros, Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold, or Jacoby Brissett. He was leaning towards Dak. Not for me, baby. Not with the Chiefs in town. I'm going with Jacoby Brissett, slightly ahead of Sam Darnold, who's also having a big one. But I go Brissett, and Dak is third for me. How about you, Tyler?
Man, give me a guy just hurling the ball all season, throwing Devontae Adams, just Matt Stafford's mean green.
No, not Stafford. Not Stafford. Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold, or Jacoby Brissett.
Ooh.
Oh, I love Stafford too. Don't get me wrong, but that wasn't in the question.
Nope.
All right.
Tougher, isn't it?
Yeah, give me Dak.
Okay, you're going the way he's going. How about you, Scott?
Out on Darnold this week, I think we'll go with Dak at home on Thanksgiving.
Oh, you're going with Dak against Kansas City. Tough matchup.
Turkey legs, baby.
All right. How about you, Dennis? Are you gonna tie it up with me with Brissett, or are you going with Dak or Sam?
I love Dak Prescott. Drafted a ton of Dak. This is the week you sit Dak. I'd play Brissett over him.
All right. That was that one. And our last question is from Andrew Gonzalez. Start Emeka or Michael Wilson? I'm going Wilson because Emeka's my bust. How about you, Tyler?
It's hard, but Wilson, especially with Baker beat up.
Scott?
If we picked Wilson as our sleeper, we got to pick him here.
All right, Dennis? Dennis?
Egbuka hasn't been the same since he got hurt in week 6, so I'm going Wilson.
All right, that's our show for tonight. I really want to thank our pro and Joe for sticking around for the show and for coming in late for us because usually we start the show with this. So thank you very much, Tyler. Thank you very much. We'll be both on again later in the year. Dennis, thanks for filling in for Rick. And Iggy, take us home, baby.